they helped us through that process, and they actually found somebody to actually propose us on our behalf. And obviously, you know, we haven't looked back, and we've become an affiliated member.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned there are a few things that you had looked at to develop the club. If we wouldn't mind sort of expanding on those a little bit and just sort of telling us what they are and what you've actually done in terms of expansion.
Well, certainly in terms of expanding the club and developing the club, there's certain things that you have to look at. So the player base is always going to be an important one, and you know, making sure that we're offering players the right sort of level of rugby, the right sort of tournaments, the right culture, making sure that you know, we're clearly visible as a brand to potential players. And you know, we've actually seen more recently players have started to come to us, which is fantastic from my perspective. Makes my life a lot easier.
I bet it does. Now, obviously being very much the modern world we live in now, social media plays an important part of this. Are the Saxons becoming involved, or are they already heavily involved within social media?
We have taken some significant steps. So we built and launched our website in late July, I think it was. It's linked to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I think there's one other, WordPress. You know, we have our own blog site which deals with a lot of what we call the weekly communications for the players. It's kind of the newsreel. Facebook, Twitter, the WordPress, you know, they're all really, really active. And, you know, what we found was YouTube is a little bit lacking. But what we're hoping to do with what we're putting out is really boost our YouTube profile as part of the series of these videos.
Now, I've heard, and I've obviously been on these websites, I believe there's some events coming up in the not too distant future. Can you just sort of let us know about these events that are coming up?
You know, when you look at the events that you put out, some people say that the events all had to be based around that part of the season. One of the things that we wanted to look at was in terms of creating a sustainable culture, and I keep using this word sustainable, excuse me, the Olympics have been on, you know, it's one of the big buzzwords, but for us sustainability means the ongoing future of our club and the survival of our club and the health of our club. So, you know, events are going to play a large part of that, and one of the things that we wanted to do was create an environment where newer players could come in and socialise with us, get to know us, understand our culture prior to actually competing in a tournament or in a season with us. They could come in and experience who we were and understand who we were and what we stood for prior to that. And we've, as you said, we've got a couple of events coming up. We've got a group of the guys going out to Jongleurs in Piccadilly Circus next weekend, and then on the 5th of December we've got our first Christmas party.
Fantastic. And do you find that your sponsorships are behind you on this, are becoming involved in this? I mean, you know, looking at sort of, having done the research myself as well about these elite sevens tournaments that are around at the moment, where do you see the Saxons sort of fitting in with this elitist group, to say?
Well, I mean, in terms of sponsorship, I think what every sponsor is looking for is making sure that they're buying into the right culture, the right team that suits them as a brand. But primarily, what sponsors are looking for is a certain amount of visibility, and you know, they're definitely interested in successful teams. And we've made a significant decision to actually put out an elite side this year. For 2013, we will be putting out an elite side. We've done a lot. We've spent a lot of time going out and selecting 25 players who will make up the core of what we call our elite squad for next season. They won't quite be competing at what I call the senior elite level, but you know, we'll definitely be there within one or two tournaments. What makes me most proud is actually there's quite a few of what I would call core original members of the Saxons who are making up this elite group, and for me that's, you know, that's quite a significant thing. It means that we will be bringing through our culture into the newer players that are joining the squad next season. Fantastic.
Now, one question that I've been dying to ask for a little time now is about the women's side to rugby and rugby sevens as well. How do the Saxons, the Saxons see themselves fitting in within the women's side to the rugby?
Well, I think if you're going to talk about rugby development today, you know, in this time, in this period, you've got to start talking about women's rugby. It's such a large part of the game. I think it's really important that for a young club going forward, that I feel that we need to embrace that. We're very lucky at the moment that we've just agreed 2 months ago to help out Richmond Rugby Club with their women's side. They needed some help with the structure of their sevens. After a long conversation with their chairman, they've agreed to come on board, and we have really high hopes for them. We've got them in a couple of tournaments. We're doing one overseas tournament with them next year, and we're hoping for big things. And going forward, we hope to see them grow in the same way that we've seen our men's teams grow.
Fantastic, Chris. Now, we spent quite a bit of time talking about your team. I'd just like to sort of turn the focus now on the tournaments and what thoughts you and the Saxons have on them in the way the landscape is changing with a lot of the tournaments you're coming across and also playing in at the moment.
Well, I mean, look, tournaments are always an interesting thing. They seem to range from one extreme to the other. You get your pure sevens teams, and then you get your actual tournaments that are actually more sort of event-based things. Bournemouth is a prime example of something that is pure event-based. They made a real spectacle out of the sevens game and created a whole sort of event and festival that supports the event and is actually what makes it so successful. Where we struggle, and we've never been to Bournemouth, and I myself have never been to Bournemouth. It's expensive. It's not a cheap event. It's not something that we are in a position financially to be able to go and look at, and particularly from what we try and achieve, I would rather see us spend that same amount of money going to 3 Rugby Rocks or 3 or 4 other tournaments to get there. We're working off a limited budget.
Okay.
But obviously, the last 3 years has been quite fractious at the top elite level. I think it's been significant. You've had the National 7 Series, which lasted a year. Big financial investment. Unfortunately, that investment ran out. They only lasted a year. What they did do was create a very interesting concept. And what you've seen is the Super 7 Series has come on, taken up the mantle from that, and pushed it forward. I'm not completely sold in what the Super 7 Series is. I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of enabling other teams to get involved. It comes across as a bit cliquey at the moment, and just getting invited or getting involved seems that there doesn't seem to be what I'd call a clear process for someone like the Saxons in the next 2-3 years to actually become one of those teams. And then obviously you've got a range of other tournaments. You've got West Country, which is when the sun's out, West Country is a fantastic tournament. When it's a wet, miserable, nobody wants to be there.
I can imagine so. Yeah.
You got things like Newquay, and Newquay's more about the night out than it is the tournament. I still think the tournament itself is just another sevens tournament, but because of what it is as a night out, it's fantastic. Manchester, I think, is a really interesting tournament to watch at the moment. I think what they're doing is fantastic. They're continuously evolving. Solstice seems to have hit the nail on the head with their format and the way they want to go forward. I've never heard anybody come back saying they didn't enjoy Solstice. But for us, going overseas is a large part of what we do tournaments-wise. It plays a large part in what I want the Saxons to be.
So sort of talking about back to the Saxons now and their tournaments, where have we seen the Saxons sort of go in the last couple of years since their their birth, to say?
Well, in our second season, we made our first overseas trip to Neuchâtel in Switzerland. That was fun. That really helped us work out, really focus on the logistics and what we were offering players. I mean, we're running 5 tours next year, 3 of which are going to be paid. When you're asking players to stump up money, you've really got to give them a real value for money. We've come up with a price of £200 for a tour. That covers your travel, your accommodation, and actually you get quite a large part of stash. A good £85 of that £200 is actually buying a serious level of stash. And that's done well. And what was it? This year we went to Milan. We had a fantastic time in torrential rain. We got to we were the runners up in the match. Milan. We did really well at Milan, and Milan have actually asked us to become ambassadors for them for next season, with the hope of driving a few more teams there. Really grateful for them to ask us. They seem to like us a lot, and Neuchâtel really like us. You know, we're going back, funnily enough, to Milan and Neuchâtel next season with 2 new teams, whereas the main team is actually going to Pamplona.
Fantastic.
And we'll be the guys will be doing the bull run.
Wow. Can we see yourself there, Chris, on the ball run, or are you going to be cheering from the sidelines?
Well, I don't know. Pound for pound, I think I'm in about the same weight category as the bull, so we'll see. I'm not sure my head can take the concussion anymore.
Well, listen, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to talk to us and to talk to the viewers about the Saxon Sevens. Before we close the interview off, Chris, I would just like to ask if there's anything else you want to add at all.
Well, you know, the whole part of why we're doing this is we're really hoping that as a result of these videos that we can, not force, but we do think there's a need for the RFU to start taking a lead in how Sevens is going to develop, or at least trying to get parties to the table to actually push the sport forward and put in plans of how the sport is going to develop. You know, I do think now is the right time to have a specialist Sevens development officer, not just 15s as we currently have. Somebody who has a vested interest in helping the tournaments structure themselves more profitably and make them more fun. Again, having the same sort of impact with the actual teams as well. That's kind of, you know, the be all and end all of why we're doing this, why we're here today.
Well, listen, Chris, thank you very much. And once again, have a great day. And thank you for taking part in the Saxon Sevens.
Thank you very much.